national championship game. Because nobody else has proven that they are as good or as elite as those two teams. And what Ohio State's done in the Big Ten, I mean, out of their 9 Big Ten games, they're obviously 9-0 in the Big Ten. 5 times they've held teams 10 points and under. They really took Wisconsin out of their style when they played back in October. I think Ohio State had 272 rushing yards and blew them out 38-7. So I don't see Ohio State slipping up today. Indianapolis has become Columbus West. There'll be hundreds of thousands more fans for Ohio State than Wisconsin. The Buckeyes will have no problems today, and they're definitely going to be that team to beat.
All right, Tony, we appreciate you joining us. Up next is Kent Sterling, KentSterling.com, standing by to talk about the Colts. Tony, I know you got to get some other things going. I appreciate you squeezing this in today, buddy.
Yes, sir, man. Have a good one. Take care.
All righty. Tony Donahue of the Tony D Podcast joining us now on the wings. Kent Sterling of KentSterling.com. How are you, sir?
Good, Tom. How you doing?
Fantastic. We're just talking a little college football, bowl games, talking Big Ten, obviously here in town, Ohio State and Wisconsin. You got any thoughts on some college football today?
I'm taking the favorites all day long. I think Ohio State's going to run over the top of Wisconsin. I love LSU over Georgia. I really like Clemson, even as a 28.5-point favorite over Virginia. I think it's going to be the favorites because they got to stack up some points and be impressive for that committee.
You know, I know you're an IU guy. I'm an IU guy, so let's play the homer card real quick. First of all, what a great season Tom Allen has had. Has been able to have 8 wins for the first time, I believe, since 1993. Gets a contract extension, well deserved. We were just talking with Tony a little bit about the bowl game. A lot of chatter talking about that they'll go back to the pin stripe game there in New York. I don't know. I think that IU wants to go there. We were thinking maybe the possibility of Music City Bowl or the Red Box Bowl. But where do you think that come Sunday, Tom Allen and his crew will end up at?
Well, my philosophy is this: we don't get greedy about bowls, but I'm not going to Detroit. If they send Indiana to Detroit, I'm done with it, because that's not a reward for a good season. That's a punishment. That's a penalty.
Yeah.
That's a consequence. And so going to Detroit is just an insult. And if the committee sends or the bowl people, they send Indiana to Detroit, I wash my hands of the entire operation.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be frustrating. And if any team has won an award, it's been IU, that's for sure. Well,
yeah.
I brought you on to talk about the Indianapolis Colts. I mean, we've got ourselves in a predicament, if you will, and a very avoidable predicament. And let's start with the elephant in the room. Everybody, I think that's a Colts fan is disturbed by Adam Vinatieri. Unfortunately, he's had a rough season. We saw the signs of it. We're probably seeing the end of his career. I'm wondering, and this is just a conspiracy theory, I'm wondering, is he air quote on the injury list and out? So that's going to be kind of their way to separate ties with Adam Vinatieri at the end of the season.
You know, and I get that suspicion, and the Colts have earned that through not communicating honestly with the media and with the fans about injuries. But I am certain that Adam Vinatieri is actually injured, that he actually had an MRI on that plant leg because he's got a knee issue. And that's just what happens when you get old. You know, things don't heal quickly, if at all. And so I think Adam's being upfront about it. I think the Colts have been less than upfront, so we're a little bit suspicious and a little bit cynical about their communication with us from an injury perspective. But you know what? I love the guy, and I'm not going to allow, one rough season that was injury-driven, that mediocrity injury-driven, ruin what I think of Adam Vinatieri as one of those Colts who's going to go up in the Ring of Honor someday.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And he's definitely going to be a first-round Hall of Famer. Let's talk about our quarterback, Jacoby Brissett. Obviously has had a great job stepping in an unexpected role with the retirement of Andrew Luck, and I think has done a great job. But I think we're still it's going to happen. You know, everybody's going to talk about it, that Luck's coming back and Brissett's going to go to another team. But let's just say that doesn't happen. Is the Colts on board for a long-term relationship, if you will, an LTR, if you will, with Jacoby Brissett?
I think that's still to be determined, and I think that these 4 games are going to have something to do with that. The 4 games they've got left in the regular season. If he continues to show that in the fourth quarter he's incapable of going out and winning games in the way that a lot of other quarterbacks are able, we see the top 10 quarterbacks, let's just draw the line there. Those guys can go out in the fourth quarter and get some work done and get their team over the hump. We remember back in 2017 when Brissett was the starting quarterback, his luck was out. I think the Colts had leads going into the fourth quarter 7 times of games that they lost, and everybody blamed Chudzinski and Pagano for not being imaginative with their schematics offensively. But I think a lot of the responsibility also resides with Brissett. You've seen that this year. He's really good in the first quarter. He is not good in the fourth quarter, and that's when you earn your money as a starting quarterback in the NFL. They've got another year with Brissett with a manageable contract, and they've got a draft coming up where they've got 3 picks, at least right now they do, in the first 2 rounds, and you're going to be able to go out and get a guy via the draft that maybe you feel good about in the future and use this upcoming year in 2020 as kind of a get-acquainted year for a new quarterback with Brissett there, kind of showing the guy the ropes. I think that that's what winds up happening in the end. But don't sell the Colts' ability to win games short. They could beat the Buccaneers. They could beat the Jaguars. They've got the Panthers. The Panthers just fired Ron Rivera. And then they've got a Monday Night Football game against the Saints. I'm not saying that it's likely they run the table, but they could run it. They could do some things and put themselves in a position to still make the playoffs. So let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater yet and toss this season aside. Something good could happen for this team.
No, I absolutely agree. I think they're still on the outside looking in, and I think if they can get some wins, their chances of getting to the playoff certainly increases. But if we get a loss to Tampa, I mean, it's still going to come down to this Jacksonville game. And we look at 3 games that I think that we can go back and look at and say, had we won those games, we would have had some tiebreaker issues. There would have been a lot of things that would have been in our favor. Had we beat Miami, for God's sake, had we beat the Raiders, had we not beat ourselves last week against the Tennessee Titans, a team that we're very good against historically, coming into on the road to get a divisional win was a stinger.
And there are even a couple others. You really should have won that game against the Chargers. They're 6-6 right now, and you don't have to squint too hard to figure out how they could be 10-2 right now. And if they're 10-2, we're not having this conversation about Jacoby Brissett. If Vinatieri is healthy and he knocks field goals through at the level that he has over the course of his career, we're not having this conversation. But at the same time, if Jacoby Brissett had played better against the Titans, we're also not having this conversation. So I think you're absolutely right in that while Brissett doesn't bear all the responsibilities for what looks like it will be a mediocre season, he does bear some of it, and I think some of it is enough to put Ballard in a position where he's going to look and he's going to say, you know what, if one of these guys is available, if Herbert's available, I don't know, maybe Fromm with that Redskins pick early in the second round. If those guys are available, maybe you take a chance on a new franchise quarterback and you prepare yourself for 2021 when Jacoby Brissett is going to be somebody else's issue.
Let's talk about T.Y. Hilton, if you will. It's getting to that time of the year when you're hearing not just T.Y. with just other players, and they say, well, it's week by week, but he's still not ready to go. At some point, he gets put on IR, and he's done for the season. Do we see that coming with T.Y. Hilton? We desperately need him in the final stretch.
Yeah, he's not going to play this week. We know that. I don't know. At this point, does it even make sense to put him on IR and open that roster spot? I don't know. Hilton is a guy whose health over the years has kind of eroded pretty steadily. We remember last year, he was week to week. He almost never practiced the last 7 or 8 weeks of the season with the ankle injury, and now he's got the calf deal. This is his 8th season. Sometimes, guys age at different times, and guys become expendable because of injury at different times. And it looks like maybe that time has come for T.Y. Hilton. I hate to think about that because he is one of those guys who can change a game. He's dynamic. He's a competitor. He's really, really smart in the way he does his business and finding seams in his zone, finding a way to get open, running routes correctly. A really good dude for this team. And I hate to think that this is it for him, but you know what? Maybe it is. And while that'd be a shame, they got to think about going out and getting another weapon. This roster looked like it was so set, right? Just a year ago, when we went into this season, it looked like they were deep at wide receiver, crazy deep at tight end. They had a glut of running backs. You had 2 starting level quarterbacks. You had a great offensive line. You thought, man, we are set on that side of the ball for the next 2-3 years. And then all of a sudden, football happens, and you're looking at maybe having to draft or assign a new number 1 wide receiver. You got questions at quarterback. Eric Ebron has gone on IR with double ankle surgery. All of a sudden, what looked to be a terrific roster has eroded because of injury, and you got a lot of holes to plug this offseason, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And look at the injury report. I mean, you got Malik Hooker, we could desperately need. You got Kenny Moore, which is out, which we could desperately need. Clayton Gathers, Marlon Mack is still dealing with his hand, as we talked about. Paris Campbell, we could definitely use. Ali Cox and Yin Sin, those are all key players that are on the injury list this week that we need to get healthy going into the rest of the season.
And you look at a guy like Malik Hooker, who's done a really, really good job. I mean, the completion percentage against Malik Hooker at the free safety position is crazy low. He's really important. He showed up on the injury list this week. He seems to be a regular occupant. He's taken up a residency on the injury list. And that's no slight on him. I mean, he's not doing it because he wants to get out of practice. He's genuinely injured. But you've got some issues, and those issues are going to have to be addressed during what is going to be an insanely important offseason for the Colts.
We'll talk a little bit about, of course, the Colts going down to Tampa Bay, meeting their old coach, Bruce Arians. Tampa Bay has gotten hot at the right time. What are your thoughts of the Colts versus Tampa Bay on Sunday?
It's one of those teams where it looks like they've kind of figured it out. Bruce Arians and Jameis Winston all of a sudden look like they're in sync, and that offense is getting productive at the wrong time. This looked like one of those games when we looked at the schedule maybe in September where we were like, okay, that's a win. We can just chalk that up as a win. You show up in Tampa and you collect your W, and this is going to be an entirely different deal. You're going to go down to Tampa, and you're going to try to figure things out on the fly, and you're going to try to put together a game plan that addresses the weaknesses of that defense, and then try to keep Jameis Winston from killing you, and really a game that you thought, like I said, was going to be a win. This is going to be a coin flip, and they're going to have to show up and play really well into the fourth quarter, and we're going to have to hope that whoever the hell this kicker is, he knows what he's doing, and he can make a couple of kicks because we know how important that is.
Well, he's got quite the resume. He's only a rookie, or maybe this is only his second year in the NFL, and he's played with about 6 different teams. So hopefully he can get it done. Let's play the home card just a little bit more while I got you here, because that's what we do well. But let's go over to down to Bloomington, to the IU basketball. Of course, they're in Madison today. They play Wisconsin. IU is so far 8-0, but we know it's still very early in the basketball season. But wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be nice? We say this every year, but wouldn't it be nice to see IU in somewhere better than the Sweet 16, maybe Elite 8 or a Final Four?
Oh my goodness! Yeah, that'd be pretty good. I'm not ready to predict anything like that. They haven't been to the Elite 8 since 2002, so it's been a long cup of coffee since they got over that hump. But seeing progress this year, getting into the tournament at all, I think would be a good thing, and I would settle for that. They got a game against Wisconsin that is, man, if you can go steal one up in Madison, you feel real good about yourself and feel really good about your opportunity to run the table until we get to Maryland. I think